In this one, build tier list for Season 10 New Age. As always, I need to explain a few things before starting. In this build tier list, I account not just for the damage, but how easy it is to progress on that specific skill from a beginning of the season and how well it scales throughout the game. There are exceptions that I'm going to talk about later. Now on to the next one. You could say that to obtain Ice Crystal Arrow or Shadow Warrior and Archer Link runes, I need a skill and link rune selection chest, which there is no way to get in the campaign. And you would be wrong, because when the new season starts, we always get blue and yellow selection chests, and most of the time more than 2 or 3, from free Zodiac Pass, in-game events and in-game mail as a freebies. And lastly, if you want more in-depth explanation on what's going on with some of my decisions that I made, you will have to watch the overhaul explained video that include unique gear balance with skill and link rune changes. Be sure to check the description for updates. I also leave the link to the written guides for Undecember that should help the new players. Let's start with the most important one, which is the free unique gear category, and I have 0 skills in that one. I'm gonna explain this. First of all, I know for sure that we're gonna get some free unique gear, but I don't know what type of gear we're gonna get. And that gear is gonna come from the 4th anniversary event, seasonal challenge, and in-game event. We should get about 3 or 4 pieces of gear. I don't know what that gear is, so I can't put any skill runes in that one. But I highly suggest to focus on that. Whenever you log in into the new season, before doing any build, please check what type of gear you can get and then decide on what build you're gonna do. Let's say there is no unique gear that you want to do the build for. I still suggest to bite it and just do the build with the free unique gear, because if you can reach the high level maps and like low level Abyss Gate and Wheel of Fate, you're gonna be able to acquire some good drops, and you can sell those drops onto the auction house. That means you can make rubies, and when you make enough rubies, you can switch to any skill or any build that you want to. In the overpowered category, I have 3 skills, and they are with question mark, because it's really hard to understand from the patch notes how they're gonna work. Because it's hard to understand how they're gonna work, it's really hard to calculate that damage. That being said, it's definitely gonna be a buff to all of those 3 skills. The question is it gonna be twice the damage, 3 times the damage, or 5 times the damage? You get the idea. So Condensed Fire, Frostbomb, and Lightning Arrow gets a really big damage buff. Condensed Fire and Frostbomb is spells, so you can't really use them as standalone, you need to do a trigger build. Lightning Arrow is gonna work as Augur Arrow. What it means that it's gonna get an awakening that adds a projectile overlaps. With that awakening, your single target gonna be quite a bit higher. But my concern is how much multi-target damage you're gonna have with that awakening. If it's balanced and you get more single target damage and you don't lose as much multi-target damage, Lightning Arrow looks like it's gonna be a fun skill to play. While Condensed Fire has the only question mark with how good the awakening is gonna be, that gives you extra projectiles from the fire energies, Frostbomb has another issue. Frostbomb, I know it's gonna be good, but the problem is I don't know how it's gonna work with the Cold Comfort Shoulders. So it's a transcendent item specifically for Frostbomb. And if it works exactly as it was working before, Frostbomb is gonna be broken. One thing that I forgot to mention is that don't pay attention to any priority of the skills that are in the categories. It doesn't really matter. What I did basically is I used some minion and sentry skills to divide attacks and spells, so it would be easier for me to talk about and it would be easier for you to see. That's all it means. It doesn't mean that the skill is better, it's just that all skills in the S tier is just S tier skills. I want to address the biggest changes first, and we have to look at the question mark category that I have traps, sentries, and minions in here. Basically, all of these skill runes were buffed across the board. They got more damage, they got more HP, they got quite a bit of cooldown reduction for the enhanced skills, and so on, so on. Everything is good and nice, but the problem is that the main problems, like survivability and interaction problems, so they wouldn't be as wonky, is not yet fixed. That means I can't recommend for the new players. However, Wrathful Knight and Fireblade Sentry got even better. That's why, and I always kept those in my previous builds because they were the only builds that you could do and you could reach high level content with those. Right now they are even better, so they are still staying there. Two additions is Lightning Fusion Knight and Electric Sentry. The Lightning Fusion Knight, actually, if you were doing 2 Rune Knight build, you were always using the Lightning one to apply the Lightning debuff. So it didn't change at all. I just added it for more clarification maybe. Electric Sentry is another thing. Electric Sentry right now has 6 projectiles instead of 1. That should help with the multi-target clear. Also, you were using Electric Sentry to apply a shock debuff at least on the bosses. Frost Shock got insane amount of damage increase for spells. You can't use Frost Shock as standalone, but as a trigger, it should be okay right now. It's definitely S tier spell. Blizzard got a little bit more damage. Wind Blade, Fire Bomb Shot, Throw Explosive, Ice Crystal Arrow, Deadly Poison Claw, Poison of Rain of Arrows, Combo, all got damage increases. It varies from like 10% to like 50%, but they are all so much better than they were before. Most of these come from the unique changes, by the way. Like Wind Blade got so much more damage on the daggers, it's crazy. Same goes for Fire Bomb Shot. Fire Bomb Shot and Throw Explosive got another indirect buff that comes from the bowgun changes. So basically, bowgun was reducing your range by 50%. Right now, it only reduces it by 25%. Ice Crystal Arrow got 10% damage buff on the boots. I don't know why. I put it only for the memes. Deadly Poison Claw, right now you don't need gloves to benefit from dual wielding to do double damage. But the gloves at the same time gives you a lot of range and 40% extra damage jump. It's insane. Poison of Arrows got a really nice buff. Right now you have more area, which is fine. Combo, the same, changes for the unique item. On the gloves, you don't dampen your damage as much. As attack, Ogre Arrow and Virulent Slash, remember, those 2 skills only do single target damage. They don't do any multi-target damage, and I keep saying that in every single build tier list, but there is always 2 or 3 comments complaining that those skills don't do multi-target damage. So I assume they don't listen to the video, but you know. Lightning Slash, Crescent Slash, Unleash Lightning Shot, Lightning Vortex, Explosive Slash, and Cross Slash, they are good skills to progress with. Fire Blow has a problem. It's really hard to do early in the game because you need a lot of area to overlap all of the projectiles. So keep in mind, I don't suggest Fire Blow super early. You need to do that later or much later into the season. As spells, we have Dark Judgment and Judgment of Light. Those 2 are really strong, especially when you combine those with the Zodiac passive 3 called Elementalist, or I should say Node. Elementalist node works, by the way, for any spell build. It doesn't have to be specifically this, and an Elementalist does so much damage, it's crazy. I have a build guide on this, you can check that on YouTube. 8 tier buffs, Freeze Arrow, Electric Shell Shot, Poison Skeever, Twisted Abyss Link, Poison Cloud, Lightning Wave, Frostball, Plague Spike, and Spinning Dagger. All of those got nice buffs, but not enough to make them S tier. Freeze Arrow and Poison Skeever basically got a free awakening, which is a nice quality of life change. Electric Shell Shot, right now instead of splitting, it's chaining, should give you quite a bit more clear. Lightning Wave comes from the change of the unique ring, if I remember correctly. Right now it dampens less damage for Lightning Wave. Plague Spike is a little bit of a question mark in here, but it's basically pre-nerf Plague Spike, which was decent. Spinning Dagger, it can't be a standalone skill. You need to trigger it with something. This season there is a few more triggers to choose from. It still doesn't make it super good. It's maybe not even A tier, but I just kept it for the copium. A attacks, Fissure, Frost Strike, Earth Blow, Cold Wave, and Absolute Hammer. Not much to add on those. A spells is Wings of Ignition, Frostthorn, Thorn Explosion, and Toxic Mist. Not much to add on those. Question mark buffs is a copium category, and I'm gonna explain to you why. Fire Torrent got changed entirely. Right now it looks like it works more like a goddammit sentry. Flamethrower got a little bit of a buff. Flames of Death got a buff from the Spica's Light. Right now, Speaker's Light only applies to Flames of Death. Meteor got a nice rework, but it's really hard to do and requires very specific setup, but could be higher than actual A tier. But this is a little bit of copium, so that's why I keep it in here. Cold Outburst is actually exactly the same thing as a Meteor. It got really good damage increase. It was doing decent damage, and right now it's like pre-nerf Cold Outburst with even a buff. The problem with Cold Outburst is that the damage is really delayed and you can't really do maps with it. That's why I keep it in here, but it could be really, really good. Poison Orb, a little bit of a change, can't really tell you how good that is. Arctic Shard, on the other hand, got twice as much area. And Arctic Shard, I mentioned those in previous videos, that it has good damage. What it has a problem with is with the projectile overlap. And right now that we have more area for those projectiles, you could see Arctic Shard doing pretty decently right now. Piercing Arrow, in general, I can't really tell you anything about it. I don't understand how it was reworked. It doesn't look too good. It looks kinda meh. Instead of 5 arrows, you only have 1 arrow right now, and it's like, it pierces through all of the targets. It does some kind of damage. I don't know. I'm leaving this in a question mark. Fierce Strike, not even close to be good. Highly doubt that. Fireball, minuscule amount of buff. Shadow Forest, if you push it down to the copium level, there is something to do. Remember, this skill has cooldown, so you need to reduce cooldown as much as possible. I was trying it, I don't know. Could be good, or it's just copium. Dagger Throw, insignificant amount of buff, doesn't change much. Scorching Arrow, I mentioned it before. Scorching Arrow already had a good damage. Right now it even has more damage, but it has a positional problems. You need to like stand very still and aim very high accuracy to like overlap the projectiles that you generate from Scorching Arrow for them to do damage on that one specific target, if that makes sense. And the last category I have in here is channeling. So basically people are asking about whirlwind builds. Are they good? Are they bad? And I'm gonna say it in here. Whirlwind builds people are still doing for fast mapping. Whirlwind is not gone. If you see like really decked out builds, you're gonna see that they're not really playing with like Crescent Slash or like Lightning Slash or like good single target damages. They pick up Whirlwind just to run their maps really fast, to grind for like fast essences and so on in high level maps. I'm not saying to push content, but people are still using Whirlwind, but right now, not to push the game, but just to have easier time farming. Same goes for Whirlwind Barrage. It was actually buffed, but I wanted to categorize it as channeling. It was buffed, it has twice as many projectiles right now when you are dual wielding the bow guns. At the same time, it also is affected by the bow gun range buff. I would say it could be really good. It could be even like in S tier buffs, but I'm gonna keep it in here just to be safe. And also, when you're doing a bow gun with Whirlwind Barrage, you need to use a trigger. Because Whirlwind Barrage has so much single target damage, and right now it's gonna even have more single target damage, but it doesn't have any multi-target damage, and that's a big problem if you want to run your maps faster. This is where I'm gonna finish. I think I talked quite a bit about this. If you need more explanation, yeah, just as I said, go into the overhaul explained video. But for this one, GG's, bye-byes, and see you in the Season 10 New Age.